chair is still a chair, even when there's no one sitting there. Oh, but a chair is not a house, and a house is not a home when there's no one there to pay the rent. What's up, family? It's Nathan Gorham here with the Gorham Companies, and I am on my way to inspection with the city building inspector, because they asked me to install some spring hinges on the apartment doors. That was preventing me from getting my use and occupancy permit. I didn't think they were necessary, but it doesn't matter what I think. Like The Rock says, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I think, because the inspector said that that's what I need in order to get use and occupancy permit. So the reason why I think they said spring hinges are important in this situation is because they allow the doors to close coming out of the apartment. So if there's a fire or if there's smoke coming out of one apartment and the person leaves, then the door will automatically close so that the path of egress is not impacted by the smoke. So that's why they said that the spring hinges were required. I don't think they're required on all the doors, but they said they wanted them on all the doors. So that's what we did. And now we're waiting for the inspector. We're meeting the inspector today to have him take a look and hopefully sign off and provide my use and occupancy permit. So, happy Valentine's Day, family. Here's the thing. When you're trying to do this whole real estate thing, the key is getting a good tenant in place. So sometimes you want to argue with the inspector. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem right. It's not fair. It's illogical. All of those things may be true, but your critical path, in construction, we have something called a critical path method. That means everything on your schedule is set up so that the most important thing stays the most important thing. And so you have to remember that your critical path, the milestone that you need, is rent commencement. When your rent starts, when you start receiving rent, is that's the thing. So even though it may not make sense to you as a landlord, it may feel like it's just, it's adding costs. Maybe you feel like it might be even adding time. You have to really weigh your options on whether it makes sense to fight or argue, or whether it makes sense to just do it, because the critical path is rent commencement. The critical path milestone is rent commencement, getting your rent. And so you need a tenant to get the rent. And so anything that's preventing you from getting a tenant in place is a thing that you focus on. Some people focus on all sorts of things, and you can get sidetracked in real estate because you might focus on something that doesn't really impact the bottom line. Don't get distracted. Focus on that milestone, getting a tenant in, collecting rent. Everything else is it might be urgent, but it's not important. It might be a preference, but it's not critical. So just thought I'd throw that out there for all your investors out there. Focus on the critical path. Focus on the thing that's going to get you to the bottom line of why you're doing this. You know what I'm saying? Everything else, this might be important, but it's probably secondary. So the spring hinges were keeping me from getting the use and occupancy permit. So I didn't argue with the guy. I don't think they're necessary on certain levels or whatever in this situation, but it doesn't matter. I just did it because the inspector said that's going to prevent me from getting my use and occupancy permit. So spring hinges were like $20 a piece, and you probably need at least 2 of your 3 hinges on like regular residential doors need to be spring hinges in order for them to work properly. You can try to do all 3, but that means you're paying $60 per door for just the material, for just the hinges themselves. And then if you have somebody put them on, then it's, additional. I put them on myself. Actually, I had my son Joshua here. He helped me put them on as well. So we put the spring hinges on, and they all close. And instead of watching the Super Bowl, me and my son were out here installing spring hinges on apartment doors because the Super Bowl wasn't on my critical path. It might have been fun. It might have been important, kind of, for some folks, but it wasn't on my family's critical path. Those spring hinges were.